Welcome to Under the Basswood Tree with Basswood Council, a podcast where we bring you brief, valuable conversations and insights to help you navigate the complex world of business transactions. From cross-border deals to international tax structuring, we cover topics across all industries. Our team and colleagues will share their insights and provide practical tips on key issues for you and your business. Let's get started.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Under the Basswood Tree. My name is Rudo Mugwagwa. I'm off council and co-founder of Basswood Council, and I sit with the corporate and securities team. My primary focus is with investment funds, private equity and hedge, regulatory compliance, and general corporate lifecycle matters. Before we begin, just a friendly reminder that this is not legal advice. Should you need legal advice, feel free to obviously reach out to us or to reach out to your own attorneys. So as a firm, we have made it our mission to dive into the world of artificial intelligence this year, primarily to understand how it impacts us as a law firm and our practice areas, and how it impacts our clients, their business, and how they operate. One of the most important areas in this space is the anti-money laundering compliance component, particularly in the financial industry. Today, I'm joined by Abbie McMillan, who is a compliance professional based in the Cayman Islands. Abbie has over 15 years of experience working both in-house and within private firms, from doing audits, consulting, conducting risk assessments, and the full gambit of compliance activity. So continuing our conversation on compliance matters in the digital space, just wanted to take a look a little bit at what's happening in the crypto space. Of course, there's been a lot of buzz around the Genius Act in the US. Obviously it's considered to be kind of it would be a big step, right, in terms of acknowledging, stablecoins and the US sort of moving forward in terms of being a leader in the space. Of course, we know other jurisdictions have already taken steps, right, in adopting certain regimes. But of course, when you're a big economy, people tend to listen and pay attention to how you're moving. I would love to hear about what you think about the impact that these regimes are having, right? We know we already have BAS. We went through a whole process, right? The FATF went through a whole process of issuing its own, report, several, policy recommendations to try and get people to regulate that environment, right? Whether it's the exchanges, whether it's recognizing Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokenization, all these things that, of course, also speak to the blockchain technology. What do you think we're going to see now that we have an administration that's supporting, embracing cryptocurrencies?
I'm all for it. The fact is whether jurisdictions adopt regulations, acknowledge it, or whatever, it's going to exist. And now it's either going to exist on the ground or it's going to exist in an area where it can be properly monitored, regulated, and rules enforced, which, I'm all for.
Of course, again, we've seen that, cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology has been really, game changing for jurisdictions where, currency circulation is an issue. And we've seen people being able to enter, into a cashless society, enter into that phase, of their industries, right? And I think now the other side of that is sort of discussing, okay, what are we seeing then, right, in terms of activity, since now people are opening their hands more and embracing it? What are we now seeing financial institutions go through? I remember, the boom of the crypto funds. And the mass panic of, okay, how do we authenticate wallets? using the old school CDD checks we do, source of funds, how do we manage that? And initially there wasn't a way, right, to do it. We just applied it, but it wasn't necessarily legislated on yet, right? So we sort of saw legislation, the vast legislation and all the amendments that came, globally, to make sure it's clear digital assets are captured in AML regimes. So yeah, just looking at us now, what are you seeing is different in terms of SARS being able to report, how smart people have been moving in terms of how they invest in using investment funds to move some of these funds, or just in general, even the exchanges themselves, right? But yeah, what have you been seeing?
Two parts in this one. So I'm seeing a lot more kind of people who wouldn't like normally. Let me rephrase that. The demographic of investors has shifted because crypto, I'm seeing a lot of kind of younger people like kind of getting involved with these crypto funds, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So when I was 22, I wasn't doing this, So I'm seeing a shift in that, and which is making it very interesting. It's kind of changing the field in that instance. But the biggest change I've seen, and I spend a lot of time with this in the digital field, is well, in general, but I spend a lot of time with digital ones, is the shift in demographic, apology, in relation to suspicious activity reports.
Oh, yeah.
I am seeing I don't know if you want to call it stereotypical, historical, completely blown out of the water. I see people, I'm seeing people come across. I'm like, well, why are you like? People are using it just to say they can do it, which I think is kind of. But then I'm seeing like a huge shift in a demographic in an area that it's very close to it's kind of very close to my heart. I have a real interest in it. I hope that's the right word. And it's like an area I'm very passionate about globally, but then also in the involvement of stopping it. And I'm seeing it's a shift in demographic and the CSAM industry.
Yeah, I think we've all heard a lot about a lot of the negative things that have happened, right? In terms of, we have the SVB bank scandal that happened. We're very aware of, the scams online, right? Investment
romance
investment advice that is, that shouldn't be given online. I think that also speaks to, I guess, what is it called? Pig fishing, or
pig butchering.
Yes, pig butchering, and how it's proliferated into, I guess what we would consider lay people's spheres, right? People don't know that, this person is actually not a real person that's offering investment advice around crypto. Of course, during COVID, we saw that all that kind of activity exploded, right? Because I think there was a case to be made, right, for people embracing crypto because the world stood still, right? And so I think, we saw a lot of people get taken advantage of. And I think that pushed a lot of the regulatory measures that some jurisdictions embrace, right? You see that there is a huge push for consumer protection. We know that governments have departments that are specifically trying to catch those bad actors that are exploiting people who have limited knowledge. Like, for example, I wouldn't expect, the ordinary person to know how to verify where where their crypto came from. Like, well, that wallet, right? The idea that we've traced this wallet. I don't know if a lot of people would think, okay, I got this cryptocurrency from an above water person, not above water, but a good actor, right? I guess that's the concern, right? Because I think, I remember there being an issue with this traceability of crypto, right? Like if someone puts money, wants to invest in a fund using crypto, I think there was a lot with regulators where they're like, okay, how do we even get our own staff to be able to validate the source of this crypto, like where it went, the journey it's gone on, right? Because we know people use tools like, privacy coins, they'll use mixers to try and conceal the origin, right? And so, yeah, there's just a lot of exposure there for people as it pertains to the crypto space.
I think
what tools do you think have been, I guess, have developed, how far have tools come, I guess, in terms of being able to trace a lot of this activity and to protect some of this activity from bad actors? Of course, I mean, we can all appreciate crypto is not meant to be, it has to have a level of privacy, right? That was the whole idea behind it, right? For it to not be something that's centralized, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just in the last 5 years alone. So yeah, COVID. Sorry, they kind of all merged together. The analytical tools available then compared to now, it's just astonishing to see how far it's come in such a short period of time. Like I said, earlier, like in the past, we were, in the digital space, you are very reliant on analytical tools. It's not like you can, you go into a brick and mortar business, you can go through filing cabinets and you can do it that. You can't do that with digital by design. So you are very dependent on the analytical tools to assist with, whatever you're doing, be it transactions, monitoring, suspicious activity. Like you need all of it to kind of complete your program. And I think we have gotten to the point, and I think AI and machine learning plays a big part into this. It's assisting in helping the defensive tools develop faster. That was all. So I've come across, in my opinion, I've always thought that, as I've said before, criminals or people who deal with this activity, they don't have rules. The regulatory people in the industry compliance who are on money laundering reporting officers, they have rules they have to adhere to. The programs and platforms and everything used for illicit activity have always been developed faster. It's easier because then the defensive tools can't be designed until they know what the first platform is going to look like, and they have to kind of go like that. But I think it's gotten to a point that the analytical tools from a compliance point of view for transaction monitoring side, all of that, I think they're catching up, and I think it's gonna I think they're gonna be on par soon. But the interesting thing is there's always new ways, there's always new loopholes, there's always new areas that can be exploited, and then it's trying to catch those holes and catch this as quickly as possible. There's the it's like I say, cat and mouse. It's keeps us in a job though. So
yeah, I'm sure for fund managers, there's probably greater comfort now because they have more guidance from governments, right, authorities, of what they trust and what they don't trust, right? Even for custodians, just sort of knowing the requirements for custodians and exchanges, I think it's probably helped fund managers make a choice, right, of how much they put into crypto investments as well. And I think for people who are designing or who are the exchanges and who are the custodians, they at least go in now knowing what will be required of them. Because I think there was a time where they also weren't sure, right? What
It's
the
also the
limits were.
understanding.
Yeah.
It's also the understanding of it. You know, like 8, 9 years ago, you ask somebody about like a cold wallet, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, just like 10 years ago, it was kind of if you know, you know, and if you don't, just don't. And now everybody, the terminologies, it's becoming a lot more integrated into the financial industry. Before it was, oh, you're in crypto, you're over there. You're in banking, you're here. Now it's kind of like, okay, everyone's kind of talking together.
Yeah.
And the understanding and the sharing of knowledge is I think it's helped a lot.
Yeah, I think overall, just publicly, there's greater knowledge around crypto, right? Than back in, 2020 even, right? And I think we'll continue to see that. We'll continue to see people understand the limits that should exist. But I think also for individuals, like I know people who order pizza using, their crypto or whatever, right? To like order pizza. And so I think the more governments sort of embrace and provide the guardrails, I think people will feel more and more comfortable. Of course, like you said, it's a cat and mouse game. We'll see how the bad actors evolve. But the idea is that the regulatory bodies are aware that they are also continuing to evolve and are investing a lot into the education side and the training side of professionals, and that will trickle down to private actors as well, right? I mean, obviously, we'll all wait and see how it evolves. We'll be looking out for the Genius Act. We'll be looking out to see how other jurisdictions, adapt their own regimes. We know, of course, Europe already had a regime in place that they've been using. They already have the passporting across Europe. We know they already encourage things like auditing. So I think we know that it's possible to have a regime that can work. But yeah, so we look forward to continuing to have this conversation, sort of tracking what's going on in this space. Thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to watch us, continue to follow our newsletters, and to look out for the new episodes. These conversations never end. It's just an opportunity to continue to empower yourself out there as you do business or just as a point of interest, which most people that are following the crypto space is really out of in finding an interest in the subject area. Thank you for tuning in.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. To stay up to date with the latest legal insights and Basswood events, please follow us on our Basswood Council LinkedIn page and visit our website at www.basswoodcouncil.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll speak to you next time.